Well, good morning. Oh, here, let's do it this way. This will be fun. All right. Let's get it going. Oh, hey! Didn't all see you there. Well, I would like to welcome you all to the, what is this, the 5th year of the Terrible Tendies Fantasy Football League. And this is going to be our 2nd year of these video recaps. I apologize that, I wasn't able to get those done the first couple of weeks. I actually had a script written for last week, but new iPhone launch and all that stupid horse shit get in the way. It didn't end up happening. But today, I have got week 3 matchups, and we're going to be looking at those as we, again, tootle around town. I'm going to get some things done, work on some things around the house. We're going to run some errands, and let's see where we can take this here. All right? All right, so the first stop on today's little errand run is we're going to go ahead and head out to Walgreens. Got to pick up some prescriptions. We're going to drop off some UPS packages. And let's kind of see where the afternoon takes us. So let's go ahead and start off week 3 recaps here. We're going to talk about first, no punt intended, and TI Bionic Man. Now, this game was crazy because neither defense decided to show up or that they wanted to play. And we're going to get into a little bit of that a little bit later with the defenses here. But this game all came down to Monday Night Football. And if you guys didn't watch Monday Night Football, it was a great game. In that game as well came down to the very end. So we'll talk about that here again when we get towards the end of this lineup. But first, let's talk about Antonio Brown. So for the second time in 3 weeks, Antonio Brown pulled down over 10 receptions or more. He also pulled down 100 yards or more receiving. But this week, he added a touchdown. He had 10 receptions, 110 yards receiving for 23 points when he added that touchdown into it. Amazing week for Antonio Brown as he's starting to finally kick that into gear. Another wide receiver that did awesome was Dalvin Cook. Welcome to the NFL, Dalvin Cook. And actually, I shouldn't even say wide receiver. He's a running back, for God's sakes. 97 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and he had 5 receptions for 72 yards through the air. He wrapped up 25.4 points. So good on you, Dalvin Cook. There's the first good on you of the season right there. Now let's talk about Monday Night Football. So there was 5 minutes left to go in that Monday Night Football contest against the Cowboys and the Cardinals. And these two teams, no punt intended, TI Bionic Man, were separated at the 5-minute point by less than a point between the two of them. On no punt intended side, you had, who you had there? You had Larry Fitzgerald playing. On the other side, you had Carson Palmer playing. So there was a little bit of going back and forth with that. But all at 1:17 left, all Carson had to do was throw a touchdown, but not to Larry Fitzgerald. And he had a lot of opportunities. There were lots of different guys that he could get it to, and TI Bionic Man would have pulled out the victory over no punt intended. Couldn't do it, though, as they went 4 and out within the 10-yard line. 4 straight passes. Most of them were horrible. One good chance there to their running back who was filling in for David Johnson. Yeah, it was just not a good play. But Carson Palmer finished the day 325 yards, 2 touchdowns. Amazing showing, 16.7 points. So, you had that on there with TI Bionic Man. But let's jump over to the no punt intended side now that we know how the actual game came down. No punt intended got a huge help from Drew Brees. So Drew Brees has thrown 3 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks of the season. Week 3, he doubled that total. That's right. He's completed 75% of his passes. He had 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. He put up 21 points this past week, Drew Brees did. Another high scorer there, Marcus Mariota. He continues to improve each and every week. And every week he's playing against stiffer and stiffer competition. He had 225 yards, 2 touchdowns for 21.7 points. But the big winner of the day, for no pun intended, we talked about him a little bit, the 34-year-old Larry Fitzgerald continuing to roll back the clock of Father Time. He ended up with a huge game. He had 3 catches, which you're probably watching here, 3 catches of 20 yards or more. He ended up with 13 total receptions, 149 receiving yards with the touchdown, 28.4 points. And in any year this year, we're going to talk about the defenses here. In any year this year, if I would have told you that the Ravens defense would have scored negative points against the Jacksonville offense, you would have told me I was crazy. But Jacksonville, as we're going to find out through these recaps, has some serious weapons this year. They ended up with negative 6 points. So despite the Ravens' best efforts to try and screw over, no pun intended, he got the win, 94 to 90.1 points over T-By Bionic Man. So way to go on you, no pun intended. I'm just about ready to pull into Walgreens here, so we'll take a look and see what the line is. Maybe we'll get another recap in. Let's see here. We're turning the corner. Which side to pull in? We'll pull into the right side. They have 2 lines here at Walgreens, and you got to kind of choose wisely when you've got 2 sides up. So we'll see which one happens first. But while we do that, let's go ahead and hit another recap. So our next recap here this week that we're going to be looking at is Vagenda of Manicide versus Jesus Tits MD. Vagenda 89.4, Jesus Tits MD getting the win 96.2. But honestly, this one was a little bit closer than it looked at the final score. It wasn't clear until towards the end of Sunday's games that we had really figured it out. But let's go ahead and start with Vagenda of Manicide. So Michael Crabtree, as we know last week, had a huge, it's huge game. 29 points, 3 touchdowns. This week, not so much. He had 1 reception for 7 yards, 1.2 points. Now, he did leave in the fourth quarter, but I don't think that would have changed much. He left in the fourth quarter after a huge hit. Should be okay to go next week. But yeah, just absolutely crazy. So the next person we're going to talk about here is Melvin Gordon. Now, Melvin Gordon, for Agenda Man aside, he balled out as best as he could. So despite only playing 45% of offensive snaps for the Chargers this past week, he racked up 79 yards and a touchdown. Now, this is why that's so big. He has had a bone bruise right now in the same left knee that he had a surgery on his rookie year, and that made him miss 3 games last season. And despite all of that, despite only playing less than half the snaps, still got 79 yards, a touchdown, and put up 13.9 points, which is pretty respectable, all things considering. But let's talk about the big winner for Vagenda Manicide. Through his first 2 weeks, Russell Wilson had thrown 356 yards total and a touchdown. In this week, week 3, he had his first 6 drives and with a punt, and he only had 3 total first downs in those first 6 drives. He was absolute dog shit in that first season, or in that first game. First quarter of this week 3 game. There we go. I'm being dog shit now. Dog shit emoji. There you go. All right. But he finished the game this week, 373 yards, 4 touchdowns for 32.6 points. Just balled out the last 3 quarters of that game. It was awesome to see. Now on to Jesus Teets MD's side, he got the win, of course. Large part of that, decent chunk of that came from Jordy Nelson. He appears to be 100% healthy after mixing week 2 with a quad injury. 6 receptions, 52 yards, including, he had 2 touchdowns. One of them was including this one with 17 seconds left to go in the game to tie it and force overtime. He ended up with 20.2 points. Now, Dak Prescott is one of the youngest captains in the NFL. And just to show you, I mean, that's rare. This is his 2nd year in the NFL. He wasn't even supposed to be a starter. He wasn't even supposed to be a backup last year. His 3rd string, if you don't remember. And he is now a captain of the Dallas Cowboys. And he proved it on this 10-yard run to close out the first half. Absolutely awesome, going head over heels on that rush. He ended up with 183 yards on Monday Night Football, 2 passing touchdowns. And he had 16 yards on the legs. Again, that was 10 yards that we saw there with that touchdown. Totaled up 21.6 points. But the big winner for Jesus Tits MD, Picking up right where he left off last season was Devonta Freeman. Oh my God, that man, 20 plus points and 100 plus yards for the second straight week this week. Let that sink in. 20 plus points and 100 plus yards for the second straight week. He's going to crush everybody if he keeps this up. He ended up with 106 yards and a touchdown this week, 22.3 points. Devonta Freeman, definite force to be reckoned with. So, good for you, Jesus Tits MD. I think I'm almost up to the line. We'll see if we can get another one worked in. Maybe we'll catch it in the middle. Looks like she's paying with Kislash. And I think we're going to pull up here next. So, see you later. So the music that you're hearing during this time lapse, and maybe a little bit right now in the background, depending on how I edit this, is from a really cool band I'm actually going to see today. I'm super pumped. Their name is Talk. They should actually really crush it down at Willie's tonight. So super excited to hear that. So. All right, so we just picked up a few little prescription there from Walgreens, and so now we're going to head over. I got to drop off a UPS box. We over in the Nielsner household just dropped our DirecTV, so we're sending back our boxes. Finally getting free of that, one less bill to have to pay. But let's go ahead and talk about 12 Monkeys and Buyer's Remorse. Buyer's Remorse getting the win, 122.9 points over 12 Monkeys, 70.5. We're going to start on that side of the ball there with them. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, kind of what happened to him. It is rare that a team can have 3 turnovers, let alone a quarterback, 3 turnovers in a game and still get the win. But somehow, Matty Ice, that's just what he does. He turns the ball over and still gets, sorry, not in the Super Bowl. Too soon? Sorry, Matty Ice. Anywho, he had 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And because of those 3 interceptions, only put up 12.9 points. So, yeah, did they really win that game? Maybe, maybe not. Anyways, let's keep going on that same theme. So the other quarterback for 12 Monkeys also threw 3 interceptions, but he had the standard outcome, did Jameis Winston, what normally happens. Now, he did try to make a valiant effort to come back, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, but because of those 3 picks, only 14.4 points. So that hurt. But the top performer of the day for 12 Monkeys was Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, who is a physical, I believe, I was listening to the radio this morning, and I think one of the Cowboys former wide receivers was talking, and he happened to mention that he thought Leonard Fournette was a man-child. 80 all-purpose yards and a touchdown, 15.5 points, and he laid out a safety in the early parts of that game. I'm going to see if I can find the playback of that. Hopefully you're seeing it here of him just crushing people, but he was running people over in that game. So on to the winning side of the ball, Buyer's Remorse earned the honor this week of being our top scorer at 122.9 points. So let's talk about one of the guys that helped him get there was Rob Gronkowski. Now, he had a dismal week 1, but since then, he has shown why I'm going to call him a steal of a late second-round pick. Buyer's Remorse picked him up at the tail end of the second round, which I guess really, is that the first round? However we figure that out. It was the second round of draft picks. Very end of it, Gronkowski. Last week, he had 116 yards, a touchdown for 22.6 points. This week, he had 8 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown, 18.9 weeks. People were worried that he had a pulled groin. Clearly, that was not an issue with him this week. Now, despite exiting in the fourth quarter, Doug Baldwin had his first monstrous game of the year. He had 10 catches, 105 yards, all before he left the game, and he had a touchdown, put up 22.5 points. It was absolutely crazy. Now, I absolutely hate this next player I think he looks. I mean, he's got a face that you just want to punch. And I'm talking about the one and only Eli Manning. Eli Manning is the quintessential boom or bust quarterback. And what I mean by that is he's always going to throw a lot of yards. He's always going to throw the ball a ton. They're always going to throw 40, 50 times a game. But if he's booming, that means he's completed a lot of passes early. They've got a lead, and they're going to get a win. When he's a bust, he throws a lot of interceptions early, gets behind, eventually starts making some throws, makes it a close game, but inevitably they get the loss. And that is what happened this past week. 366 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Notice, 2 interceptions, 25 points. So still a big week out of Eli Manning. But God, I just want to get right his puss. I don't know what it is. Anyways. Way to go, Buyer's Remorse. Top dog this week, 122.9 points, getting it done. I'm pulling in here to the UPS shop, so I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I just dropped off the boxes there. We are going to head on home. I've got a little bit of a coffee table that I got to put together, a little end table, I guess it more is. Laura picked that up, so I'm going to try and put that together real quick here before she gets home. But anywho, let's go ahead and do another recap here. So we're going to take a look at my team, Nuck Nuck Moose K versus Chicago Guns. I got the win this week, 118.3 points over Chicago Guns' 87.4. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way real quick. Yes, both of us made bonehead plays. Matt has a little bit more of an excuse than I do. I kind of pussyfooted around and left my wide receiver on the bench there, got me 30 points. He, on his hand, he was going out of town for a wedding, so he says, to New Hampshire with his girl. Happy for you. But you always got to make sure you check that Wi-Fi situation, that cellular situation. He had the Bears' backup running back in because he was worried that Jay Howard may still be injured and miss a start. And Jay Howard clearly wasn't that injured because he went off, got over 30 points. But anywho, let's get on with the show. So Julio Jones was definitely a big winner for him. This match overall between the two of us was pretty close until Rodgers started his comeback. And Julio Jones is the real reason why that it was staying so close. So let's take a look at his season thus far. So on his career, Julio Jones has been averaging 14.4 yards per catch. So far this season, and including this week, he is at 16.6 yards per catch, which is absolutely crazy. This week he had 7 receptions, 91 yards, put up 12.6 points. The only surprising stat is that he has yet to find pay dirt. Last year that happened as well, but he's going to get his. You know that. Believe that. He going to get his. Let's also talk about Zach Ertz for a tight end. He's actually done real well for the Eagles. He's been sort of a safety blanket there. His first 2 weeks, he gained over 90 yards in each of those first 2 weeks. This week, didn't quite get the 90 yards, but he did get his first touchdown of the season. 8 receptions, 55 yards, a touchdown. Did fumble the ball, didn't cost him the game though. 13.5 points for Zach Ertz, so way to go there. Filling it out, though, we got to talk about Jared Goff. I mean, the Rams, this is how much the Rams have sucked since 2000. Since 2000, they have not scored as many points as they have in the first 3 weeks of the season as they have this season with Jared Goff leading the helm. Now, that's saying something because in 2000, that was Kurt Warner's coming out party. So, you know, nowhere near, I don't think, are they on the same level, but Jared Goff has really been doing something different there. With Todd Gurley and everybody down there in LA now with the Rams. But so far this year, Jared Goff has completed 70% of his throws. This past week, he completed 78% of his throws. So he has been doing an awesome job. Finished 292 yards, 3 touchdowns for 22.9 points. So real good job out of Jared Goff so far this year. I'll be interested to see what happens as we roll through. Now, Aaron Rodgers on my side had a banged up front line, and I got real worried the first half of the game because they were getting to the quarterback. They were putting pressure on him. But in the second half, they had a 14-point deficit, and Aaron Rodgers started to figure out the protections, and then he started chucking the ball all over the field. You already saw the touchdown at the last second there with Jordy Nelson. This one at the end, at the beginning of OT, 70-yard bomb to set up the game-winning field goal. He ended the day 313 yards, 3 touchdowns, did have a pick, 19.3 points. So solid outing again from Aaron Rodgers. Another one of my quarterbacks I'm going to talk about here, again, 3 interception group this week. We had a lot of quarterbacks, 3 interceptions, but Deshaun Kaiser, granted his 3rd interception was the last play of the game. It was a Hail Mary, not, kind of counts. But he had an amazing game, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have the 3 picks, but he also had 44 yards on the ground, and he also got a touchdown running the ball. So he has been doing some different things with the Cleveland Browns. They kind of have some things happening, 20.4 points. But the big deal in my world, again, I'm a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. You guys all know this. Kareem motherfucking Hunt. Holy shit. He blew up in week 1, 45 points. Continued that with 2 touchdowns in week 2. And he's currently averaging 179 all-purpose yards this season. He is just lighting teams up. And they're good teams, too. 2 of them were division rivals. The other one was the Patriots. I mean, these are good teams. In week 3 this week, he had 172 rushing yards and a touchdown. That included the 69-yard run that you're watching right now to seal the win. 69 yards for a touchdown. He finished with 27.8 points. So that is awesome. I am super stoked. Still undefeated this season. Don't know how much longer that's going to be. I probably just jinxed myself. But I just pulled up home here. I'm going to go put together a little end table, and we'll see you on the flip side. So I just realized that during the course of this entire project, the camera kept sliding down. So here you go. Here's the finished product in all of its glory. Ta-da! I had to tear it down a couple of times, rebuild it. There it is. It's going to go right over there. Yeah, Cooper, you don't even care. There, we'll go ahead and put it away. Where it's going to go, it's going to live right in this little wedge in here. Just like that. What do you think, Hoops? Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, everybody. I just finished off a little shift at work here. Hopefully everything's still going good. I'm going to swing over to the grocery store. I got to pick up a couple of odds and ends. So while I did that, I figured we'd go ahead and get another one of our recaps in. So we're going to take a look at Jim Kelly's Little Nippers versus Ambitious But Rubbish. Little Nip Naps got the win, 110.7 points to 86.4 points. Had a pretty good day with that. So let's go ahead and start on Ambitious But Rubbish's side of the ball. So finally, it took 3 weeks, but finally the Bengals offense, y'all, finally showed up. And they still lost. This is the best offensive performance the Bengals have had all season, and they still can't get the W. It all starts, of course, with the quarterback, Andy Dalton, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, put up 12.8 points. He got sacked, I believe, a number of times, so that's going to, make it a little rough. Sorry about the sunlight there. That's going to be burning your eyes out, but, yeah, fuck it. So Frank Gore, no matter what team he is on, he does what he does every single week. He takes a lion's share of the runs and the carries, and he just tries to make the most of it. So far this year, he is averaging 3 yards per carry, which sucks. But at least in the last 2 weeks, he scored a touchdown. This week, same deal. He scored a touchdown. Finished the day with, I believe, 57 yards, a touchdown for 12.2 points. So decent output out of him. Probably going to be looking at least about that because Colts are going to be playing from behind a lot this season. Still impressive this week, though. You got to give it to him. Let's take a look now. Of course, since we just talked about him, Andy Dalton, we know when he does good, they've only really got one weapon. They've got 3 different running backs that may make a name for themselves in Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, and that new rookie. We'll see what happens with them, but you always know that if Andy Dalton has a good day, so does A.J. Green. Now, coming into this week, A.J. Green had 5 receptions total. Had 10 total receptions over the first 2 weeks. He doubled that this week. He had 10 catches, 111 yards, a touchdown for 23.1 points. A.J. Green finally getting it done, but again, they still came up short because, their defense kind of blows. So on to the winning side of the ball, Jim Kelly's Little Nippers. And we're first going to take a look at Michael Thomas. So it always happens this way with the Drew Brees offense, that 1 week, one receiver can get hot, the next week another one. It really makes them inconsistent. But fortunately for the Little Nip Naps, it was Michael Thomas's week this week. He was the only receiver with more than 3 targets. He had 7 catches, 87 yards, got himself a touchdown, 18.2 points. So really good job there, making sure that he actually got receptions for, a change. We'll see what happens next week. It also looks like for Le'Veon Bell, again, from the trade of the century last season, still got Le'Veon Bell cooking. Le'Veon Bell finally found pay dirt for the first time this season and showed his receiving prowess as well. Dude caught 6 catches, which for him is really high, 37 yards, 61 rushing yards, and a touchdown, 18.8 points. You're probably watching that touchdown here. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, yeah, Kirk Cousins. Got to give it up for Kirk Cousins, man. He finally got some of the rust off. He had a first couple of 2 weeks were not very good. This week he kicked it off, and he kicked it off hard. 25 for 30 passing, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 28.2 points. So an absolute monster, I won't say monster game, but a huge game for Kirk Cousins nonetheless. Really getting it going there. Now, the last person on Jim Kelly's Little Nippers, I got to give an honorable mention to. This is the first honorable mention, I believe, of the season. I'm going to give it to Matt Bryant here. 3 field goals, 3 extra points. This was his second week in a row scoring 14 points as a kicker. So really, really great job. It does a lot when the Falcons can't, get in the end zone every time. And he's a good kicker kicking indoors. So, you gotta take a look at that. But 14 points 2 weeks in a row. Way to go. I'm about to pull into the old drive-through here. Drive-through. I'm not even going to a drive. Sorry, I saw the new Bebops off in the corner. My mind got a little crazy. Going over to the Trader Joe's here, picking up some groceries, heading home. I'll probably pick you up with the last and final recap of the week on my way home there. See you then. I totally just realized I left my wallet in my car. Can I just leave this with you up here real quick? Perfect, thank you. Sorry about that. Well, we found everything we needed at the grocery store, so I guess it's time to skedaddle on home. And of course, while we're driving home, why don't we go ahead and talk a little recap action, huh? Sound good. All right, so we got one last matchup to talk about, and that is Lock, Stock, and Doc versus Big Old TDs. Lock, Stock, and Doc jumped out to a commanding lead after being spotted 50 points by Big Old TDs. They ended up winning 116.8 to 57.2. Ouch. But let's take a look at how they got there. So, big old TD, by the time Sunday rolled around, big old TD had basically spotted LSD 59 points. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But the only starter that's really worth mentioning for big old TDs was OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. So when we look at OBJ, it appears that he is back to 100% healthy finally. And these fourth quarter touchdown catches that you're watching right now pretty much prove my point. He had 2 in the final 5 minutes, I think, of the game. 9 total receptions, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, ended up with 24.4 points. God damn it. These fucking lights, I tell you, pull up, it's a red light, they go green, 3 people go, and it's red again. What the fuck? Anyways, so that was really about the only person we're talking. Now, when I told you that LSD basically jumped out to a 50-point lead, most people would say, well, yeah, he had a couple people go off, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, up by 50 points. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about big old TD's bench, the 2 players he had on his bench. Now, the first one is this guy, serial killer Chris Hogan. And to be totally honest, I probably wouldn't have started him either. He had only 4 catches, but there was 68 yards for 2 touchdowns. He put up 21.8 points. Again, dude looks like a serial killer, so whatever. The other one, though, is Stephon Diggs. And, I mean, just look at these plays. I mean, look at them. That one right there. I don't know. It was awesome. He had 59-yard touchdown, which you're watching now. He had 4 touchdowns in 3 weeks. It's just absolutely crazy. I'm not even sure what all these stats mean that I'm looking at, but basically he had 8 catches, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, put up 35.3 points. So for those of you playing at home, that's nearly the 60 points that LSD jumped out to. I mean, that could have pretty much counteracted it. It would have been a really close game had that happened. But on to Lock, Stock, and Doc's big night. So his 2 running backs just blew up the world. Carlos Hyde and Todd Gurley faced each other on Thursday Night Football, and it was actually a really good game. 2 out of the 3 Thursday night games this season have actually so far been really good. The Chiefs-Patriots game was awesome, and then this one. Hyde gutted out a hip injury, even though he had a hip injury, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, and even got himself a 2-point conversion, 22.9 points for Carlos Hyde. I mean, just unreal numbers there. It was awesome. But the real big winner, of course, was Todd Gurley. What's the old saying? 2 if by land, 1 if by sea. The first half, Gurley had not 1, not 2, 3. He had 3 touchdowns. And yes, 2 of them were by land and 1 of them was by sea. He doubled his season total for touchdowns in the first half alone. He ended with 113 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, 5 catches for 36 yards, and another touchdown, all in the first half. And you're watching all these plays right here, and it's just crazy. 36.4 points. Huge game out of Todd Gurley. Now, if that would be it for most teams. Most teams would be happy with just that. But we have to talk about the ageless wonder that is Timothy Brady. Holy shit, this dude I think he might be Barry Bonds. I mean, he's basically Barry Bonds of football at this point, except he had a much better first half of the career than Barry Bonds ever did. But Tom Brady gets older, he gets better looking, and he does better. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. In a back and forth shootout, Tom made the big money plays. It was absolutely crazy. When it came down to the end, he just kept on firing. Even when they were trying to keep him out, and he kept having to heave it down long. Eventually, he got it. 378 yards. Hopefully, I have vamped long enough that you can watch all of these plays as they unfold. 378 yards, 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. 5 of them, 35.6 points. Tom Brady just keeps on chugging. He keeps on making points. And this whole season, he just keeps racking them up. I can't even believe it. So, way to go, Lock, Stock, and Doc. 3 amazing players on your team. Had probably the best nights of the week. Even though he did get outscored by buyer's remorse. Just awesome play. This whole week was great. I apologize that we haven't had a lot of these. This is the first one out yet. I did have the script written for the last one, but man, these are a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy them. Hopefully this will be done here before too much longer, and I'll get this out to you. But man, what a great week of football, guys. Let's keep it up. Till next week.